Hey guys, today I've got a new video and it's about beating legendary Caden using TECH MAGE. The analysis in this video was pretty heavy, so I decided to do a voiceover for this part of it instead of making you read walls and walls of text, which I know just about everybody probably skips over anyways. So let me know in the comments if you think this new format makes the video more useful and more enjoyable. Okay, so I know all bosses have been quite easy for a while now. You can beat everything with your eyes closed using Cyber Hunter, which has been the standard for bosses for also a long time now, and Blood Mage, which is also extremely proficient at beating a lot of bosses now due to 3-Chain Parasite, Skullcracker, and a lot of huge buffs to certain skills it got recently. While Blood Mage could never beat Caden, at least not at the moment, Cyber Hunter can certainly walk circles around him these days, and that's saying a lot since I would still consider Caden to be the hardest solo boss in the game. But despite the fact that bosses are so easy, it probably still comes as a surprise that you can actually beat Caden, and consequently I would assume pretty much every other boss in a game using TECH MAGE, and it was actually fairly easy. Of course, when I realized, I was pretty excited, but in the case of Caden, Cyber Hunter is definitely still the safer choice. Nonetheless, by the end of the video, you might be convinced that TECH MAGE can be superior to Cyber Hunter in certain scenarios and isn't nearly as unconventional of a boss fighting class as you might think. So here's just a brief overview of Cyber Hunter versus TECH MAGE in terms of their boss fighting capabilities, and I hope that will clarify why TECH MAGE actually has the potential to work now. So first off, if you take a look at their energy control, Cyber Hunter of course has static charge, but it scales with support now instead of tech, which isn't great for bosses. If you get say 36 support and get Gene Augment to make it worth it, your static charge is still only going to give you 270 energy using a sword. And to make things worse, you're only going to be able to use it every 5th turn if you're using armored roots, which you have to against Caden, and assuming you don't get stunned. For TECH MAGE, you have Assimilation, which can only be used every 5th turn, and it only gives you 161 energy using the build that I used, which had minimum strength. And you're only going to be able to use it to the full amount if the target still has any energy to steal from to begin with. But obviously, in addition to Assimilation, TECH Mages have Reroute, which passively gets you energy based on how much your field medic can heal you, and how frequently you're using that heal. Now, that's the key here, and it's that after the level up scaling for heal was buffed, max heal actually comes really close to being able to sustain itself with Reroute, which returns 32% of health back to energy now. As you can see here, a normal max heal with the build can get me 228 energy back, and a crit heal can get me 273 energy back. That alone is already pretty close to getting you to that 330 energy that you need for a max heal. So in terms of total energy regeneration, if you think about it, TECH MAGE is definitely a lot better than Cyber Hunter here, because that passive reroute is already pretty much giving you what static charge would have every 5 turns, and on top of that, TECH MAGE still has the Assimilation. So what that means is that Cyber Hunters can only really use a level 7 heal, which gives about 549 health with 36 plus 14 support, whereas TECH MAGE can easily and preferably use a max heal, which gives 712 health with 17 plus 14 support. Now, that's a pretty big difference, which is further exaggerated with the crit heals. Now, another extremely important factor here is just how often you're actually able to use that heal. Cyber Hunters with the armored roots on a 5-turn loop, you're only going to be able to use that heal every 5 turns. With TECH MAGE, it's a lot more flexible because the amount of energy you get is dependent on how much you heal. And it doesn't matter about the armored roots loop. And that's the beauty of it, which is if you heal more frequently, you can generate more energy more frequently. That way, you can heal right when it comes off of cooldown every 4 turns if you choose to. It just depends on the situation. And that is where TECH MAGE is really superior to Cyber Hunter. So beyond that, let's just make things fair and take a look at the things that Cyber Hunter has to clear advantage. In terms of defenses, Cyber Hunter has Plasma Armor, which gives about 173 resistance with a generic full tech, full resistance, 900 HP build, whereas Tech Mage only gets extra defenses if you use temporary shields. Now, with the energy you're getting from Assimilation, it is perfectly sustainable to be using a shield every single loop, and that's what I do later on, but it's not nearly as effective as the Plasma Armor. In terms of the base defenses and how much the Armored Roots is giving you, I found out it actually worked out to be about the same with these builds. As far as RNG goes, which is a huge factor governing such a long battle, the Cyber Hunter does get the advantage by having a lot higher support when using Gene Augment. With that 36 support, which is 19 higher than a Tech Mage build, you're going to be getting critted 3% less of the hits and stunned 5% less of the time, which can be a big deal considering boss builds are usually otherwise sustainable without crits and stuns, as in you almost always only lose because of them. On the other hand, the Tech Mage build I use does have a lot higher base health, and as we know, pure health is a lot more beneficial for normalizing damage in a short period of time, in this case one heal loop. For speed, which isn't really relevant for Caden since nobody's trying to farm him, the Cyber Hunter is going to be a lot faster because the Tech Mage has to stall more in the beginning with the shielding. But if you were to try a different, easier boss such as Endless Matrix using the same builds, the Tech Mage will be faster because instead of shielding, you can use that extra energy to use Plasma Ball, which is ridiculously strong with the high amounts of tech. So, in conclusion, Tech Mage is far superior at healing, but Cyber Hunter is better at other things, most notably pure defense. But keep in mind that this is a really energy damage biased boss in Caden, where you want to get as much resistance as possible, and that's where Plasma Armor is going to be most beneficial. Against a different boss, it might be a different story, especially since Defense Matrix is actually a pretty strong shield. That's why I think Tech Mage has a lot of potential. Alright, so here's the build that I used to beat Caden. I beat him on my second try using this build, so it's not nearly as refined as it could have been. So if I were to make some changes right now, I would say you should move a whole bunch of that tech into Dex, use Unbreakable Spirit instead of Unbreakable Heart, and then use full resistance to armor instead of what I used, which was 40-80. That way, you can have the same total defenses at the end, but you would have a lot more dex instead of tech, which will increase your block chance, and that's going to be way more important overall than deflection. And I'm pretty sure that either way you do it, the deflection chance would be maxed out anyways, especially when you have Technician on, because you only need 65 more tech than your opponent to max out your deflection chance at 20%. So here's just equipment that I used. Nothing too special, just Pyro Fly, Armored Roots, and Crit Heal on primary. I had Lifeline and Throne Shot just for safety, but I didn't end up needing them at all. I use physical weapons even though Caden has lower resistance, and the reason for that is because I didn't want to give him Reroute so I could get him to the drain state faster, and that was just me playing safe. But also because after he's drained, you don't actually have to be doing that much damage with every hit anyways, because you don't want to give him Fire Scythe. So if you are going to try to beat Caden with Tech Mage, for whatever reason, here's just a brief rundown of some tips that I would recommend. First off, take Bludgeon with Pyro Fly. Of course, that's going to be necessary in this case. The basic rotation is Roots, and then your choice of shield, usually Technician, but you can also pay attention to what moves he has used to try to better predict what he might do in the next 3 or 4 turns. After that, you can just do a random attack like Gun, and obviously heal. Once Roots is off, you can assimilate and start to cycle over again. Now, it's going to be very common to alter this rotation in order to maximize how much you heal with every heal. Unlike Cyber Hunter, where healing is sort of a use it or lose it type of situation because of the 5-turn static charge loop, where you're basically healing even if it goes over your max health, Tech Mage relies on healing for as many health points as possible per heal in order to control its energy via Reroute. Since Assimilation already grants 161 energy, You must heal for at least 528 health points in order to cover the cost of the heal. Healing for more than that will allow you to afford the shields. Of course, another thing to pay attention to is whenever you're at full energy. You want to avoid that as much as possible so that you can continue gaining energy with Reroute. Once he is drained, it will be more difficult to use Assimilation to its full potential because at 150 energy, he is going to be able to use Fire Scythe and Double Strike. However, at this point, the battle should be easy enough that it isn't necessary to do so. And that's it. Now for the outro.